once again, and welcome. Our sermon for this morning is taken from John chapter 14. Jesus is speaking. This takes place the night before his execution, when he's hanging out with the apostles at the Last Supper. He says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In the house of my father and mother there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and I will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going." Thomas said to Jesus, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" Jesus said to him, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to God except through me. If you know me, you will know my father and mother also. From now on, you do know God, and you have seen God." As I was meditating this morning, I was reminded of a girlfriend I had. It was probably over 20 years ago. And one time we were hanging out, and she said, "Don't you feel anxious about the universe?" I was like, wow, it's a big question. And I thought she meant, just like the world is in a kind of a difficult state, like people are not at peace with each other. And she said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the infiniteness of the universe. Doesn't that, worry you? And it didn't, because I wasn't really sure what she was talking about. But it came to me this morning that I think we know, if we got in a spaceship and just started traveling up, there doesn't appear to be a point where it ends. And I don't know how long it takes to get to Mars, but I've heard it's several years. So, and that's just within our particular solar system, which exists within a galaxy. And apparently, I might be wrong, but there's either millions or billions of galaxies. So in a sense, I understand. There's no boundary to it. There's no sense of okay, even if it's going to take me, I have no idea what 100 light years is, but even if I know, at least I'm going to hit some sort of a boundary that says, and this is it. I think that's what she meant when she said that it caused her anxiety. There was no sense of end to it. Why do I bring that up? I bring that up today because Jesus is talking about knowing God. And he sounds very confident that you now know God. And Thomas is like, we don't know what you're talking about. How can we know where you're going and we don't know the way? Well, we have decided that Jesus is a messenger, is a deliverer of truth to us human beings. And since we have an instinctual desire in the soul to want to know God, whatever that is, that sort of mysterious, unknowable presence, which is infinite, has found a way to deliver that message to us on Earth, one planet amongst billions of planets. I know sometimes people think, well, we must be the only planet that has life on it because we can't see life on other planets or human beings or humans or whatever it is. So in our short-sightedness, we go, we must be the only thing. And so then God of the universe, in some teachings, has incarnated into the presence of Jesus and is now saying, I am the God of the universe. I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't make sense. I've been given a brain, I've been given a mind, I've been given a capacity to understand some things, and this man, who looks very similar to me, whatever, has a beard, maybe a little shorter, I don't know, was the creator of the universe? No, that doesn't work. Plus, in the gospel, he's praying to God many times. So there's something that's not quite right. At the same time, he says, you do know me, therefore you know God. So how do we reconcile this? How do we come to understand what he's talking about? And this is the beauty of the Gospels of Jesus Christ, is that they, if you choose to, they force you to work harder within yourself, that the truth may be revealed. Now, there are many people who hear a passage like this that says, only through me shall you come to know God. Or, if not for knowing me, you won't know God, or some version of that. Now that becomes a righteous entitlement to say, you see, it's right there in the book. If you don't know God, or you don't know Christ, if you're not a Christian, you will not know God. And then what's the ellipses? Well, ... Therefore you are going to be designated to spend your life in eternal damnation. That doesn't work. It's another thing that doesn't work for me. When you meditate and you commit your life humbly to going like, I don't know the truth, but I long to know the truth. As the song said today, as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul thirsts after thee. That to me is built in to the fabric of the soul, that there is, and not everybody has awoken to that, but once you have awoken to that, and you must have it, it's like a parched individual is just clamoring for water and the soul is hungry for it. I believe that's an instinctual desire that is placed in the soul. However, our minds can take over, our emotions can take over, and we forget that that's actually really important. But for those who have never forgotten that, we want to know. And the mystical path provides the way through experience. And when Jesus says He is the way, I will tell you that the way is love. If you make the pursuit of love your life, the truth shall be revealed. This is something that we teach here in the Mystical Church of Christ. You can equate God with love, with Christ. Therefore, unless you know love, you shall not come to know God. You could substitute it that way. So that's exciting, because it's like, well, that sounds good. I want to know love. But how? And sort of that's what Thomas is going. Well, how do we know the way? And Jesus says, you have seen me for 3 years. You have seen the way. That you travel around and you spread the word of God. And by your word you heal people. And by your word you make food appear. In other words, the mystical and magical power of God/love becomes your embodiment. And that is the way to know God. Again, we could say, well, that sounds great. Okay, how do I get started? Well, this is why we call it a path, because we need some help. We need some people who are further along to say, okay, here are the steps that you need to do. I think the God, the Creator, is massive. We have a tendency sometimes to want to personalize that and say, well, it must be similar to us as human beings, because we can only relate to intelligent beings as being human. How do we relate to a creative force that makes a universe that's infinite? Like my friend said, it just creates too much anxiety. And then if we're supposed to have a relationship with a presence that created that, I mean, it's one thing to say it's an infinite universe. Whatever it was that created it must be bigger than that. Oh my God, I thought I was anxious before. Now it's magnified. But it's something that's that intelligent, that specific, that organized, must have given us an opportunity, a way to know that presence. That's sort of logical. There would not be a teaching that says you must come to know God and then not give us something that we can actually achieve. So, we have the second point of the Trinity known as the Christ. And that is a presence of God that is placed within each soul. And if we can come to know that presence, which we absolutely can, through meditation, through studying the Gospels, the teachings of Jesus, through being taught, through letting the ego subside to a normal level of influence, through training the mind, having the mind renewed through the Christ power of love, we come to recognize there is a presence of Christ in me. Or, I don't know, a mysterious presence of love, a relaxed, peaceful, always balanced place. So our task becomes to know that place, not just to talk about it, not just to preach about it, but to know it. For if we know that presence of Christ, only through me, Jesus is speaking as the Christ, only through knowing the Christ will you come to know the essence of God, our Father, Mother, Creator. And that, to me, is simple and it makes sense. Because if I have to fall on my knees and pray to the Creator that made the universe, how in the world am I going to make sense of getting a response back? A relationship requires communication back and forth. We must relate to each other. So all of a sudden it makes total sense. Oh, there's a presence within, and I can't explain how that presence within knows God of all things. But when I move into that presence in meditation, I can't help but go, well, this is a presence that is unfamiliar to me, because I typically live a little bit more agitated or a little bit more pensive or a little bit more busybodied. But this presence doesn't have that quality. Is it me? Is it something in me that is not me? Well, we call it the God self. So yes, it is a component of me. It is the God aspect of myself. Well, why are we not all chasing this down? Well, this is where the path of experience brings its surprises. Because coming to a place where you can know that Christ requires that anything that is in the way of that be examined. And there must be a discerning component in terms of what stays and what doesn't. And there are aspects that do not cross over and enter into the Christ. There's many parables that talk about, two of them will go in and one of them will not. People go, oh my God, I hope I'm one that goes in. No, we interpret this from the internal perspective. There are parts of us that are not in favor of God, that do not love love. They love ourselves, they love lust, they love money, they love power, they love nastiness. And those parts do not cross into the Christ because they cannot be in the presence of that vibration of love. They do not want to be. So we cast them out, outside of ourselves. We ask Jesus and Mary to lift that garbage from our system so that we may pass through the gate and enter into the presence of Christ and know what that is. What's that like? That's something that I want each individual to be hungry for it. Because it doesn't help when somebody tells you what it's like, because then the mind gets all weird and starts to connote concepts about it, and that gets in the way. So this mystical path is one of empowerment through experience. And Jesus lays it out really clearly. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I mean, walking around this world, if you had no idea that this was true, and all you thought was like, well, there's a huge God, and I think the God gets pretty angry pretty easily, and if I make a wrong mistake, I'm going to end up in eternal damnation. Eternal, oh my God. It's just very scary. But actually, the Scripture contains the truth. Do not let your hearts be troubled. He's saying, it's here for you. I'm here for you. I'm the example of it. I have walked the path of love to show you what that looks like. You can do the same. You know the way. Follow me. Act as I have done. Pursue this presence of Christ within, and you will know what it is, what God is, what love is. And then, should you choose to, you make your life a service project to do what the Christ in you guides you to do. It does not dictate that you must do this and you must not do this. But it will be clear when you're stepping outside of the parameters of love to go, it's a little bit tricky what you're about to do. I'm not sure I would think it through that way. Why don't you take a night and sleep on it? Let's meditate in the morning. There's a relationship between the soul that has been the seeker all this time, the one that has thirsted for God, now comes to know the presence of God within. And it's kind of like, imagine you've been looking for your soulmate all your life. And you've read all these books, and you've done all the meditation, and you know he or she is coming. And then one day, I think I found them. Great. Elation, relief, maybe some sort of heart-opening sadness. Oh my God, my struggle is over. Right. Well, we've all been in relationship. The struggle is not over. Now we have to learn how to live in harmony with our soulmate, as do they with us. And that is an element that is not often taught, which is, how do I live in harmony with the Christ within? Because with a soulmate, I'm imperfect, she's imperfect. With the Christ, I'm imperfect, Christ is not. How irritating is that? It can be irritating because we're forever having to reflect back on the areas that we have to examine and maybe we have to correct and change. But the beautiful thing is that it's a presence of love. And so it can't do anything but love us. And we just accept that maybe we don't know what that means yet. Maybe we don't know what it means to be loved by God. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. But can you imagine your 10-year-old boy is playing video games and it's now 9:30 at night and you come into the room and say, 5-minute warning. And they go, Mom, I'm in the middle of this super high level. You don't understand how important this is to me. And Mom says, I'm giving you 5 minutes. Wrap it up. But you don't understand. I'm playing with a guy in Istanbul or thinking about Turkey. I'm playing with a guy in another part of the world. This is what I live for. This is a 10-year-old boy. And we go, you have school tomorrow. You'll be going to bed in 10 minutes. And that's it. How does that boy feel about Mom? Not great. Probably angry. But is it better, or should this child be allowed to play video games till midnight? Well, we as adults know that's not going to be helpful. The child's going to wake up in the morning and be grumpy and be sleepy and be irritable. So we have a sight that the child does not yet have, and the child is consumed with what they're doing in the moment. Be alert to the same dynamic. When you begin to experience Christ, the love of God within, there will be times when God knows better and says, I think this would be better for you. And we might go like, no, I don't want to have to listen to you. Whatever. Maybe you're not even real. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe this whole path is a sham. Aren't they asking for money? So the mind gets tricky. Okay. Read over the passage if you can. Remember, do not let your heart be troubled, but pursue the way and believe in the way. He says, believe in God, believe also in me. This is real stuff. It's all contained within. We just need to roll up our sleeves, commit to the process, be patient, be disciplined about our inner work, and it's guaranteed.